Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, all of you industrial pilots out there, how would you like to be the next Palpatine? Well, you won't really be Palpatine, but let's just say that this gives you a chance to join into the combat. Now, when I say to join into the combat, I mean if you're an industrial pilot, this is the way. And obviously, yes, those were all Star Wars references by catchphrase in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. Sorry, I'm messing up that first line. But nonetheless, let's get into the nitty gritty of getting these combat pilots ready. Now, as I said, the industrial pilots. So, how are you going to get them combat ready? Well, it's quite simple. Yesterday I talked about getting into ratting, how to build up and where you're going. Now I didn't talk about researching skills. That's for four particular reasons. Number one, researching skills is a very long process, and giving someone a respec option isn't really going to help them. This isn't for beginners. Beginners will follow the straight up guide on how you build up your first few ships. That's going to be where they're going to go. And after you pass your first lot of cruises, that's when everything changes. As soon as you're out of the cruises, everything is different for you. You're going to move around, you're going to study whatever you want in terms of research. That is going to be what makes your style. And yes, there's a lot of things to question. When it comes to targeting ships, Weber fires do a tremendous effect for most damage. Missiles effectiveness, and there's so many things to talk about. Weapon effectiveness, range, fall off, tracking. There's so many things to talk about, and players just seem to get crossed in the wires when it comes to it. And it isn't something for just one video. It's something that I might just do on another video. Actually, there might be a second video following this. So let's get into it for this industrial pilot video. Now, as an industrial pilot, if you are going to, say, for example, jump into combat, you've now learned to use battle cruisers. You can use them, right? You don't have the most efficiency. You aren't really all that good with them, but you can join in to just add in that quick DPS. You're not adding in a ridiculous 3,500. You're not adding in 3,000. You're adding something like 1,400, maybe 2,000, and that is good enough DPS for you to make an impact in the fight. Now, let's say that you've already got your feel, like I was saying in my previous video. I'm not linking them up in a single series, and I haven't cleaned up my channel in about a month. That's because I've actually been trying to build up a little bit more in terms of things that I want to put through. Now, with all of this is exactly where I'm going with what I'm about to say. As an industrial pilot, there are ships for you that you can use without respecing to start getting into combat. Let's say you were a perfect miner, you had your full industrial skills 100%, and you now decided you want to do a little bit of combat instead of production. Fantastic, here is the route for you to go for it. If you are a production main and you decided you want to do a bit of mining and a bit of combat, this is also the route for you to go. But for one of the two, this route is extremely simple. For the other, this route is extremely difficult. Now, within the range of industry are the combat vessels. Now, yes, they aren't really effective for combat. They're just really tanky, and they fit into a niche within the community where you could be a hardcore or a softcore player and you can play with these vessels. You just need to move around with the team. Now, once you get a feel to ratting, you're always going to jump in with friends. Keep at least 4 or 5 friends together, and this is the type of ship that you want to be running in, the Nereus combat. Now, with the Nereus combat, here are the bonuses to it. Plus 5% shield, plus 5% structure per level on advanced industrial ship defense. You're an industrial pilot. All of your industrial skills should be maxed by now. Your mining on strip and your mining on standard mining should be already reaching a point where one of them is expert, so you should be at that region. And if you are going any further, you can expert out all of these. If you're reaching T8 within the first month or so, you should be an expert in all of your industry right through from start to end. So that is where your ships would be in terms of expert. If you were just jumping out of production because you've decided you're only going to do 3 factions, or you're only going to do the elite factions. That's Sanchez, Blood Raider. So you just learned all of the factions. This is actually the route for you because you most probably skipped Modest Legion and Sisters of Eve since it's not in the game as yet. So right now, go in, start researching your industrial ships, and that is just where you're going to start. Now, moving on from this, this ship has an additional bonus of plus 20% for industrial command to your drone effective HP. Now, health points are a good thing, and with this here, you can get 100%. So your drones are equal to drones as tough as four drones. So your 2 drones become equal to 4 drones in terms of toughness. They don't improve their damage. So what do you do with really tough drones and a nice ship? This is exactly where I'm going with it. So let's get on to it. For your research in combat, you are going to research drones. Drones are the easiest to use. You use them as an industrial pilot. They help in your defense of your mining operations. They help in defense of most things. So if you have your drone expert, your drone levels maxed out in medium, this is going to help you a lot when it comes to this vessel. As you can see, 2 drones, 2 weapons, 2 mid slots, 4 low slots, and a 3x3 for rigs. Now I'm just going to give a little bit of an explanation on the ship. My rigging of the ship is just going to be rudimentary, and trust me, there are other ways that you can rig up the ship. The ship will be a really massive tank if you have completed it correctly. Now when I say a really massive tank, I mean it can compete with a battle cruiser in terms of tankiness. That's as far as I have seen it ever pushed, because of the fact that it has 2 defensive upgrades, one to its structure and one to its shields. So you can have a massive shield in the front and your structure can be improved quite a bit in the back. So 25% improvement to your overall shield. It may not be a shield tank. Let me just open it up and look. It was a shield tank. Okay, so with that 25%, it's a quarter extra added to it. That will take it to just over 10,000 effective HP on the shield and just over 5,000 on the structure. That's an additional 3,000 HP. That's going to make the ship 3,000 stronger. That's 27,000 HP. That's beating a lot of the cruisers just default before you add any fittings. Once you add on a hardener, you're adding hit points to the ship, you're making it more tough, and there you go, you're now over the 30,000 mark. You're breaching the same class as the battle cruisers. Pair it up with the right fittings in its slots, and now you have something that can effectively do 25 to 35,000 effective HP. And there you go, you've got a battle cruiser type resistance with a low combat vessel. It is a combat vessel in a way for the industrial pilots, but this here will give you a lot of other bonuses to your ship. I'm not exactly sure if you can transfer weapons into its cargo hold. If you can, then this ship is going to be even better than I'm explaining it to be. So when you're doing this, you're always going to jump into a team. And the best place to use Nereus combat is when you are gathering your loot at the end of battles. Now the Nereus combat doesn't have the biggest stat bonuses. It has 261 meters per second speed. That's a standard flight velocity. With the complete industrial set maximized, it could be quite a big speed increase. 3 AU warp speed, it's standard for a cruiser type vessel. That means you can have a battle cruiser defense on it with a cruiser type speed to run away with. Okay, you have a power grid of 396 megawatts. That's a nice big power grid. With your industrial skills, this is going to be almost 500 megawatts. So keep that in mind when you're fitting up your ship. It obviously does limit you in some ways. I do know exactly where it does limit you, but you can get around it with rigging it up in the right way. But just bear with me where I'm going with this. Now you have 2,311 gigajoules as your power from your capacitor. That's standard cruiser power. It's going to help you quite a bit in combat. And then you have your big bonuses, a 2,000 cubic meter cargo hold capacity and a 57,000 delivery hold capacity. Now the delivery hold generally requires you to fill up containers and throw them in. You could use this for a number of purposes overall. So basically, if you're resting in one area near another station and you have a station far away, you can go to the closest station, fill up that hall, and come back and keep picking up loot over and over again until you eventually have a full cargo hold plus your full regular you have a full delivery hold and a full cargo hold, and then you can head off to your main base and drop off a massive load all at once. Now it will take you, for example, if you're doing T9 and T10, which are the most efficient for ratting, it will take you about 7 mediums to fill up this cargo hold, possibly 4 or 5 larges to fill up this capacity. So that is where you're going with how much of a hold it has. When it comes to playing with it, you're going to want to keep the distance and range once more with your combat. It is quite a heavy vessel, and you don't want to end up losing it to taking the tank in the battle. If you are going to play it with a tank and a shield field module, this will be perfect. You can use it as your looter in terms of dead spaces, inquisitor, scouts. This is one of the best ships to run these type of operations. And all you've got to do is defend it like you're defending a cargo ship, while it can pack quite a big punch for a delivery type vessel. So you can't just go and tackle it with a small ship and hope that it's finished. Okay, so let's get into where we would fit it. Now, this isn't a good fit for these ships. As I said, I'm actually just doing a basic fit, so I'm going to start off from the bottom on the booster. The shield booster you're going to put on this is medium. Now, you can't really go much higher than a medium. It's going to hurt your overall power. So minus 55. As I said, you're going to get about 500 with your max skills. That's going to leave you with 450 megawatts. Shield extender, this is going to be a little bit expensive. 88 megawatts is quite a bit to spend. Sorry, 75 megawatts. I made a mistake. That's 60 plus 70. 130 megawatts on your power grid is gone. Shield hardener, adaptive 1 megawatt. There you go. That is off the grid. So there you go. You're at 131. You still have quite a big capacitor to go. Go all the way down. And this is where you have to choose carefully. Micro warp drive or afterburner, it's purely up to you. I'm going to use the heavier of the two. That's going to be the micro warp drive. And let's see exactly what's its power requirement. 167 megawatts. That's going to pull it up to 298 megawatts gone from the vessel. You can see that it's quite a big pull off from that entire power grid. Your 2 mid slots are going to be either double webs or a web and a target painter, or you're going to use a disruptor to try and reduce your damage. It's purely up to you. Mid slots are a really big thing when it comes to the ships, but it's up to each player. So with that being said, you are now at the complete 300 megawatt power grid. That leaves a remaining 96 megawatts. And I didn't even look at the drones as yet because you need two for them. So 302 megawatts. And let's look at the weapons we could use. Now, I'm going to go straight to missiles. I'm going to go straight to medium long range missiles instead of any other type of missile, because I know that they are really economical in terms of power. And let's look at that requirement. 58 megawatts. If I had to deploy 2, that's 116 megawatts plus the 2 drones, 118 megawatts. That's greater than my complete power grid. If I didn't have any skills, that's 418 megawatts of complete power requirement from 396. So therefore the engineering is super important for this vessel. And yes, that does it for the basics. Now let's talk about what you can do for improving your shielding. 25% bonus to your shield field. Now, since the Sonya isn't using a real heavy weapon system in terms of power, it's only using missiles, you don't really have to worry so much about keeping that reduction on the call for your shield field. The next one you can put in is Let's see what else you could put on. 25% for shield extender. Or rig 3, you understand what I'm saying? You just want that extra boost. Now with those two big boosts immediately to your shield fields, you have this massive boost to your ship. The ship now has a nice big extra amount when it recovers any type of shield. Its shield extender is larger, so it has a greater amount of EHP, and there you go, you've extended it. But you can still extend it even more against the enemies you are fighting. Let's say you're in Sanctuary space, so you're facing off against lasers. Put an EM3 rig on, reduce that damage by as much as possible. Then massive reduction straight on the EHP is going to give you a longer longevity to your ship. There you go, your ship will last a little longer in combat. It may not be just a little longer, you may be able to tank a lot more in terms of the actual damage. If you weren't putting the EHP bonus, let's say you were in Blood Raider or Garista or any other space, look for the main type of damage you are facing from any individual weapon and face off against that type of damage. And there you go, you have more effective resistance. They aren't doing as much effective damage against you, and you now can take on a lot more of the combat. There you go, quick and easy. Your Nereus combat is now up to standard. What do you do in the remaining slot? Well, mobility rig number 1, so you want auxiliary thruster, semiconductor memory so that you have a bigger capacitor, and increased recharge time. That is a standard build for me. Sometimes I do double the capacitor when the capacitor is really low. That's because you want it to be a little bit larger due to a massive draw instead of trying to keep the ship instead of trying to keep the ship stable at all times with the recharge time reduction. Now with this being put into effect on the vessel, you have a massive boost. Your ship now has enough power, it has a weapon system, it can fight. All you've got to do is research a medium weapon, research your medium drones, and there you go. Nice, effective, high dealing, not high damage dealing, but a nice, effective damage dealing vessel. You can have high range on it so that you can play further back. That's going to help you out in terms of combat, so you don't have to recover as much shield or use the shield extender too many times. Your shield field, your adaptive hardener isn't going to be pushed too far. You aren't going to drain that grid too quickly. There you go. You have everything in that basic format just to get you to the point that you want. Now, yes, these are fantastic vessels for this point. Let me just go look at another ship. I heard that this ship also has... no, this isn't good enough. Someone told me that one of these other cargo ships has a massive amount of DPS. I'm still not sure which one it is. Not DPS, HP. No, not that one. Bestower doesn't. I have a bestower. No. Standard Nereus, how much is that? It's a joke. No, so only the combat ships have these high defensive stats. And the Humpback, which is a level 10 ship, we are nowhere near capable of getting this as yet. So yes, this is also a very effective ship, but as I said, it's level 10 and we are nowhere near. Level 10 is most likely about 6 months away from us, possibly 9 months away. I'm not 100% sure on that, and you can see that it is a lot more heavy in terms of combat. It can actually put up a very good fight all the way up to T9. Now, with that being said, a lot of players are waiting for the Procurer at the next level of the game. So this is going to be the next big game changer that's going to come in. It's going to definitely affect mining. This is a heavier term of industrial ship. Looking at its entire hold, it's bigger, it has more mining yield, it has a better shield hardener, strip miner effectiveness. You can see it's really the better ship from those leagues. So I know that I haven't actually explained a lot of the things that I needed to be explained. I haven't gone in detail enough with these ships and the skills, but that is because these are meant for players who have already gotten a feel for the basics. And once you have a feel through your basics, you can actually choose for yourself. One or two levels into each weapon really doesn't hurt that much. It's only about 5 or 6 hours. And I know 5 or 6 hours is some time out of your overall effectiveness, but let's say that you do it for every single weapon. You try to get a feel from small all the way to large, keeping yourself in one or two. You feel a weapon is working a little bit better, so you give it 3, 4. 4 is going to take you a day or two. There you go, you're losing some time and efficiency. Those are all the things you can do. You can try them out. You can have a good feel. You have more leeway than players who are focused in one aspect of the game. Like a combat player is never going to be able to jump out at this point. The combat player has to now get ready for endgame, because his endgame is coming up in the next level when he finally maxes out one of his levels to one of his weapons, and he's going to now focus on those ships even more. You're going to get high power fleets. That's going to be expert level cruisers, expert level battle cruisers, expert level frigates, and these fleets are going to run around. They're going to be unbelievably fast. They're going to be unbelievably difficult to take on, and you need to be reaching those levels. And then you're going to get your professional combat pilots and support pilots and PvP and PvE players. Everybody's going to become more and more professional within that section due to research. And once you reach these maximum points where you can take on 100 enemies or 50 enemies, that is where you actually win in terms of this game. Right now, I'm nowhere near ready to take on something that large as trying to expert out a ship and run around completely with it. I wouldn't do that, because even though I have a very good feel to the game, I have the understanding to make a build. Now, there is something, if you aren't experienced in the game, you're not going to have that ability to make a quick build. It's going to give you a nice hard time in terms of building up your ships, building up your vessels, and you don't want to go through that. Now, just for reference sake on building up vessels, let's say for example, you just got out of mining, this is your first time jumping in. You have enough knowledge on drones to jump into a Vexor. You have enough knowledge in drones to use your drone vessels all the way from the lowest level to the highest level. You have enough experience with them. Basing it on what you know and what you've already focused on, you can always become better and better at combat till you have something ridiculously powerful. And then you can reshape, then at a later time in the game, when you have excess skills, you can reshape yourself for the right type of combat. And that's where a lot of players will go. One or two ships, one or two players maxing out certain skills, certain specialities, and that's going to help you out a ton. Another example of this is going to be players who are going to take advantage of the events coming up with Sovereignty. There's supposedly a SP event coming up with Sovereignty where you can actually gain extra SP. Now, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, what its special features are, how you're going to achieve it, but supposedly you're going to be able to catch up with the top players in XP. Now, yes, that is a brilliant thing to do. It does negate the need for you to have a new server, but it also has a negative to it. Players who have invested and were advanced are going to feel a little bit more disadvantageous when it comes to this. Also, players like me who don't have maxed out skills might take advantage of this event and try and push ourselves way higher than other players. They may accidentally cause players to get closer to T9 than they should be. Let's say, for example, that within the event there's the possibility for you to gain 8 to 9 million SP. If you grind really hard, if you push on that event and you make that 8 or 9 million SP, the very maximum that you can make of getting SP, you can go from being one of the weakest pilots to one of the strongest pilots. You can have expert skills in a weapon that you just opened You could expert out a battleship and still have master skills in another type of field. And that is it. You can become really, really strong. And as I said, you can have expert skills in a part of your battleship. I didn't say complete battleship mastery. Battleship mastery, if I'm estimating it from what people have told me, it's going to be something like 30 million SP just to get to your complete mastery. So 9 million wouldn't get you complete mastery. And that's just of the ship, not the weapons. With the weapons included, it's going to be something near 60 million. Yes, the weapons are really expensive to master. And when you master the large weapons, you have to master the medium and small to gain the advantage from the modules that help you with that particular class of weapon. I know that it's a secondary upgrade. Let me just go open it quickly. It's a secondary upgrade on some weapons. I know in missiles it's right there with some of the skills. Let me see what advanced operation gives me. Sorry about that. Heatsink activation time, yeah. So it'll improve my heatsink's activation time. That's a massive difference. Let's see what this here does. Magnetic field stabilizer plus 2 seconds. That's 2 from wait, no, it's not 2, it's more than 2. It's 4 for each of the levels, so it's 4 plus 4, that's 8, plus 4 from your large. That actually isn't just a 12-second bonus. When you add it to the time that it activates for, that means that you can do ridiculous amounts of damage in short bursts of time. And it isn't really going to affect you in terms of your energy output. It means that you're going to have 20 seconds of activation for a 60-second wait. That makes those systems way more effective. And if you are running double or triple, you're going to activate one, then activate the next one, then activate the next one, then activate the next one, and you'll come back to the first one. So you'll never ever jump out. Those are players who want to do max DPS, things like that there, where they overuse the systems to gain ultimate usage with them. Yeah, some of them will do things like that. The bonuses will disappear from what they're giving to your weapons, but the effectiveness of those quick activations will definitely help you because they're chaining up one after the other. You never have an active activation. Let's see, wait. With 3 of them, that's 20 seconds. You'd have a 20-second break between each run of them. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 activation at a higher speed, or if you're doubling them up to have an even greater fire rate, well, that is going to be a killer because you'll just rip through a lot of the higher end shops. Yeah, so basically those are things which you can use. There's the magnetic field, there's the ballistics control, there's the tracking computer. All of these things are helped by your research. So remember that those things will help you out, and those are one of the reasons why I haven't really done a too detailed map of what you need in terms of SP, because it all depends on who you are and how you play. Another thing to note when it comes to fighting with the vessels is a lot of players believe that the smaller ships can't take big damage. Now, here is something that I don't know why it's working, whether it's a glitch on my side, because other players say they can't do this here. I can do max damage with my battle cruiser on a frigate with medium missiles while the ship is stationary or while the ship is slow. I do max damage. But when the ship is sped up and at maximum speed, I do reduced damage. I do about 300 DPS to them when they are at maximum speed, and I do about 2700 on close range. If anybody has any ideas on why this is happening, the one thing that I do know that that's not affecting this is signature radius. Signature radius is definitely not affecting me because I switched off my target painters and only used webifiers. So when they were out of range and I hit them, they took maximum damage. When they were too close and I webified them, they took massive damage. Can someone explain what's going on? Because we had a discussion about it, theory crafting around it, why a station can do so much of damage to a frigate when it should have this massive fall off from that large missile. It should be able to escape that explosion, but the blast itself is just ripping through them. and we're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with this weapon systems. Does speed affect the damage that you do, or does let's see, what would be the better way to say it, or does signature radius affect the damage you can do? I'd like to hear your opinions on this. Give me a quick shout on it if you do have the ability in the comments down below. That's all that I need to know about this. Yeah, I'm really a little bit confused on it because I had a conversation with another expert in the game, and and honestly, he is a very, very good player. He's most probably about double me in terms of experience in combat, and it just didn't make sense that we have two different experiences when it came to the exact same field. So I just want to have somebody else's opinion. Maybe somebody else can smooth it out and explain where we're going wrong. Maybe it has nothing to do with tracking speed. Maybe it has everything to do with my weapon efficiency. Maybe his weapons aren't efficient. Maybe my weapons are too efficient. Give me some tips. You'll have seen my standard builds. That is exactly what I am running. He's running a PvP build, so I don't know if that makes a difference. Actually, that would make a big difference. He'd have better acquisition, better fire, better control. So yeah, uh, give me a little bit of tips and advice on that. I hope you do enjoy. Thank you all for watching.